Hello and welcome to the West Coast Today podcast with me, Owen Wild.
Me, Matt Young.
Me, Kathy Griffiths.
And me, Fiona Scott.
In this podcast, we let you know about some of our stories making the headlines this week online at www.westcoasttoday.co.uk and in the printed editions of this week's Oban Times and also the Lochaber Times. We love hearing your stories, so why not drop us an email at editor@lochabertimes.co.uk or editor@obantimes.co.uk or give us a call on 01631 568 000. You can also contact us on our socials. And remember, this podcast is now available over on Spotify. This week's papers have a great home and garden supplement for your reading pleasure, showing you all the best tips to build, create and renovate to inspire your home makeover. And in the big news of yesterday, a workboat has sunk in Oban Bay. The RNLI and Coast Guard responded to the incident, and luckily nobody was hurt, but the vessel remains in the watery depths. Mariners are urged not to approach. In other news, the Mull Campus Working Group has been invited to the Scottish Government to discuss the project following their loss in a judicial review. The legal route is now over, with the group shifting focus to a morality-based approach. And finally from me, a very happy anniversary to Oban couple George and Christina Gemmell, who celebrated their 75th wedding anniversary last week. 75 years, wow, that's 3 times longer than I've been alive, and the same for Matt, who's up next.
Thank you.
We get gold medals for that.
I think you should.
It certainly is an impressive feat, so many congratulations to them. Moving on, council tax will rise by 9.7% in Argyll and Bute. Council has approved the hike during a full meeting at Kilmorey Castle last week. Facing a £13.3 million shortfall before the meeting, Council leader Jim Lynch argued that the increase was essential for securing jobs and vital public services. The Conservative-led budget proposed a smaller 4.9% rise, with smaller levels of investment of around £13 million. After a long period of debate, members approved the administration motion by 21 votes to 11. Now, there was far too much for one person to cover, so I have one from Sandy as well. A hot mic incident during the budget meeting caught the Deputy Provost calling a councillor a misogynist and racist. The spat broke out before proceedings could get underway, with a number of councillors raising points of order on the matter. Kintyre councillor Tommy McPherson has now referred the Deputy Provost to a watchdog. You can catch all this alongside public reaction, how your local councillor voted, and how the rise will impact your pennies in this week's paper and online. Wow.
Thank you very much, Matt. Well, yeah, tax rises are always a headache. Now, straight back into the mix after a holiday. Kathy, what do you have for us?
This week's front page breaks the heartbreaking story of Renee Shawcroft, a mum of 3 from Camelford who has just weeks left to live battling cancer, and with the help of friends and supporters is desperately trying to raise money to pay for her own funeral costs and to help her sister look after her children when she's gone. The GoFundMe appeal target is £16,000. The total so far is just over 6.5. Read more about Renee's plight and how you can help in this week's OT and online at www.westcoasttoday.co.uk. Renee's best pal, April O'Donnell, describes her as a beautiful, selfless soul. And I met Renee a few years back after her cancer diagnosis when she and her youngest daughter, Mary, were cutting off their long locks to donate to children's charity, the Little Princess Trust, that makes wigs for youngsters who've lost their own hair through illness. Wow, faced with what was then a horrendous shock diagnosis, Renee's kindness for others and generous spirit shone through extreme adversity. Let us help her and her family now, if we can.
Thank you, Kathy. We're wishing Renee and her family all the best of luck. Now it's time to head up north. Fee, what's happening?
Thanks, Owen. So, a Fort William mother of 2 is urging all women to keep doing self-checks and attend their mammogram screenings after being diagnosed with breast cancer while on a family trip to Australia in December. After undergoing a mastectomy to get rid of an invasive carcinoma, 48-year-old Claire Hageman has returned to Fort William and has started a course of chemotherapy treatments. A flower farmer to trade, Claire grasped the rose by the thorns last weekend and shaved off her glossy dark locks as she prepares to face the next stage of her cancer journey. We also have news of a major step forward in the proposal to build a replacement for the existing Belford Hospital. Over in the sports section, primary school children from across Scotland have been taking part in the National First Shinty Festival here in Fort William, with representatives from Banavie and both Lochaber and Skye Gaelic schools in the mix. You can find out how they got on in this week's Lochaber Times, or why not jump over to www.westcoasttoday.co.uk, where you will find news and features from all our titles here on the West Coast. Back to you, Owen.
Thank you, Fee. Well, folks, that's all we've got time for this week. Many thanks for listening as always, and see you next week for next week's podcast. It's bye from me, Owen Wild.
Bye from me, Matt Young.
Bye from me, Kathy Griffiths.
And bye from me, Fiona Scott.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, hey.